So last weekend I went home because it was Memorial Day weekend and I haven't seen my family in like 5 months, so figured it was about time. I bought a plane ticket and I decided I was going to take the front runner up to the Salt Lake Airport because I didn't want to hassle my friends and driving me up there or, anything like that. So I decided to take the front runner, and I figured out the schedule and asked my friend if I could get a ride to the front runner station because that's about 2 miles from my apartment. And but for some reason I just didn't plan it out exactly right. So I got to the front runner station a little bit late, like not super late, but it was like, oh, it is almost exactly time right now, and the front runner is exactly on time. If there is one good quality about it, which there's more than one good quality, but if there were only one great quality about it, the front runner is on time. So I got there and I was like, dang it, I have to buy my ticket to get on the train still. So I have a huge backpack on and I have a luggage thing because I was like, I'm going home for like 5 days. So I'm running and I like get there and I like swipe my card and buy my ticket and I'm just like running, and as I'm running up, the train leaves because I was just late enough that I was like, I could have touched the train, but I couldn't get on the train because it was already starting to leave, so that sucked. And I really wanted to go home because I haven't been home in like 5 months, and I was like really frustrated because I hadn't asked any of my friends to take me to the airport, so I didn't know if any of them could take me. So I was like, ah! And I was like super, super upset, like, because I really wanted to see my family. I was really looking forward to it. So like I called up my dad and I was crying and I was just like, Dad, I missed the front runner. I have no clue what to do. And if I don't get up to the airport, I'm gonna miss my plane and I'm gonna miss my connection and I'm not gonna get home in time, and it's just I was so mad because I would have wasted so much money and I wouldn't have been able to see my family. And so he, being calm, because he wasn't in the same situation as me, he was like, Clara, call up a cab. Just take a cab to the airport. It's going to be expensive, but, you'll get to the airport. So I was like, okay. So I calmed down a little bit, looked up a cab number, and I called them, and I was like, hey, I'm in Provo right now at the front runner station, and I have to get to the Salt Lake Airport. Could you do that? And he was like, well, we're the yellow cabs of Provo, so I can drive you up to Salt Lake, and I can drop you off at another cab company, and they can take you to the airport, but I can't take you all the way to the airport. So I was like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll do that. Come and pick me up. So he came and picked me up, and I got in the cab. It was a yellow cab, and the driver was sitting in the front seat. I didn't feel like sitting in the front because I don't know, cabs. In all the movies, people just get in the back, so I got in the back, and I was like, okay, whatever, no big deal, but, like, didn't say anything to him when I got in the car, and all the windows were down, and I was like, okay, it's a nice day out, so, like, that makes sense. And so we started driving, and the windows stayed down, and we didn't talk at all. And so then we start going onto the freeway, and the windows didn't go up. And it was about that point that I realized that he didn't have air conditioning in the car. So I was like, oh, well, we're going to have some wind going on here. And so we got onto the freeway, and we got up to like 80 miles an hour, because I was looking at the speedometer. We got up to like 80 miles an hour with all 4 windows open and it blowing like crazy. And one of the only things that I could think at the time was just like, wow, I am so glad that I have short hair right now, because if I had long hair and it was just whipping all over the place because of the wind, I would be so mad right now. But I have short hair, so no big deal. So we're driving, and he's going about 80 miles an hour in the HOV lane, and initially I'm like really glad that I'm taking a cab, and it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so there's a lot of traffic, and I was like, wow, we are breezing by this stuff. I'm so glad that we can be in the HOV lane. But as we keep driving, I'm not talking to him at all, and there's no radio. It's just me sitting in the back seat with the wind and him sitting in the front seat. And I saw, there's a lot of me staring at the back of his head. And eventually I start noticing that, like, he's not driving as well as I feel like he could. For being a cab driver, I'm just like, I expect you to kind of have really good driving skills, stay in the lane the entire time and, like, not kind of swerve back and forth in the lane. So I started noticing that, and as I kept watching him, I noticed that he would start, not dozing off, but he would be driving, and then all of a sudden he would just kind of, like, shake his head like he was trying to, like, keep himself awake or whatever. And I was like, oh geez, I'm riding in a cab with a guy that can only barely stay awake. This isn't good. It was just, like, kind of one of the scary things in my life, because I was sitting in the backseat of a car, and what can I do? And he's just, like, sitting there, like, shaking his head every 3 minutes to, like, try and keep himself awake. Or, I don't know. It looked like he was trying to keep himself awake. But, I'm still here. He took me to a gas station. He'd called up another company, and he was like, hey, I need you to come pick up my customer and take her to the airport, because I can't. So they met at a gas station, and I got out of the cab and was like, okay, well, like, good to meet you, I guess. I didn't ever catch your name or talk to you at all. But anyway, so then I just, like, get in the other cab, and, like, he had charged me $75, which, I mean, it's kind of steep, but it's also, he's going way out of his area, because Yellow Cab's of Provo, and he's, like, now in Salt Lake, so, it makes sense. But I get into the other cab, and he'd paid for it. I just paid him, and then he paid for that cab. And the lady that was driving me was like, do you know why he didn't just drive you to the airport? And I was like, no, I have no idea. He just said this is how it had to be done. She was like, oh, okay. And, like, it was a really short trip, but I almost wished that I would have, like, driven with her more, because she was, like, chatty, and that's how I think that taxis should be. A little bit, at least. Like, if there's no glass in between the driver and the passenger, then, like, I feel like there should be some kind of communications or something. So I was kind of glad for that. But, despite the fact that I didn't make the front runner, and he picked me up from the train station like half an hour after it left, I still got to the airport half an hour earlier than I would have had I taken public transportation. So, that's just my story of getting to the airport. I think the funniest / scariest part was the fact that the guy kind of seemed like he was really tired and trying to stay awake. But yeah, that was my experience, and I probably will try and take the front runner the next time I decide to use the airport, and I'm gonna get there a little bit earlier so I'm not running ridiculously, but that's my story.